Few serial killers have been able to avoid detection for as long as the West Mesa Bone Collector. While the count of his evil deeds seem to have paused, all we can do is wait. He's still out there, and he's waiting too. Almost 20 women have disappeared from the streets of Albuquerque, New Mexico between 2003 and 2006. One young Latino woman after another has disappeared into the night. They had another thing in common as well, their job. They were all call girls. For years, no one had a clue as to their whereabouts. They seemed to have simply vaporized. But then, Christine Ross, out walking her dog Ruka in 2009, made a frightening discovery that would unearth a mass resting place of at least 11 of the women who began disappearing 6 years earlier. She took a picture of the mass her dog had found protruding from the ground and sent it to her sister, a registered nurse. When her sister texted back, she said it looked like human remains. Grisly evidence continued to pile up, but there was no one to hold responsible, even today. This is one of the most horrifying cases to ever touch New Mexico. As soon as the discovery was made, the police promised the families and the public that they would find the person who dumped the women in the West Mesa area of New Mexico. That did seem to be the case, at least at first. Because the remains were all female, all call girls, and all found in the same area, it didn't take long for the media to tag the mysterious killer, the West Mesa Bone Collector. The police built a specially trained team of investigators, FBI profilers, and various state and federal agencies to solve the mystery of how the remains of 11 women had come to rest in the desert and why. All the targets of the West Mesa Bone Collector were in the 15 to 32 age bracket, Latina, and involved in the dark side of the city's entertainment industry. These 11 women and one unborn baby were not found in a single mass resting place. Instead, they were found scattered under the hot sun, sand, and tumbleweeds across the majority of the West Mesa area. It took police several months to excavate all the remains and then begin the tedious process of identification. They quickly realized that not all the women would be identifiable. As the process began, it became evident that some of these women had been missing for several years. Medical examiners and forensic experts have been unable to determine the exact cause of death for any of the West Mesa women. They can only tell it was under nefarious circumstances. Not one witness has ever come forward, nor has one piece of forensic evidence ever been found. Nothing ties the women together other than where they were found and what they did for a living.
APD still won't call the West Mesa a cold case, but they say they also won't name any suspects involved, and they actually have a bigger pool of people they're looking at than ever before.
As of 2021, law enforcement officials have been unable to determine who the West Mesa Bone Collector is. The list of potential culprits takes the weird factor in this case to a whole other level. Lorenzo Montoya was a local ne'er-do-well who lived less than 3 miles from the unearthing site. He got in a lot of trouble in 1999 when he tried to hurt a call girl he had picked up and taken to an isolated area. He was caught in the act again in 2006, but instead of being locked up, the boyfriend of the call girl he hurt this time burst into his room and blew him away. Suspiciously, the West Mesa cases stopped piling up after his demise. Police believe there is a good chance he was the West Mesa Bone Collector. Joseph Blea was another man who fit the bill as the West Mesa Bone Collector. He was so questionable that his own wife suspected he might have something to do with it. She found stashes of women's belongings in their backyard shed, and he'd already been in trouble for attacking call girls. Blea was sentenced in a sickening case of attacks on girls in middle school, and as of 2021, has not been definitively linked to the West Mesa case.
Balea is a suspect in the West Mesa.
Infamous serial killer Scott Lee Kimball was released in 2002 because he promised to work as a confidential informant for the FBI. Instead, he went on another rampage that put him right back behind bars, but this time with a higher kill list. Authorities have speculated that he could be responsible for the West Mesa case. He claims to have no knowledge of the case, and police have been unable to establish a direct connection to him. Fred Reynolds, a man known for pandering in the area, was also looked at closely by police. He had a close connection to one of the women found in the mass site, Doreen Marquez. He passed away in 2009 before police could speak with him. If he had any secrets, they will most likely never be known. David Leonard Wood, a truck driver and ex-member of El Salvador's military special forces, is another person of interest. An anonymous call to the tip line led police to him. He is currently behind bars on other charges, but authorities believe at least one of the West Mesa women, Selania Edwards, was his doing. He is still under investigation. Photographer and businessman Ron Irwin was a suspect for a while when it was discovered he regularly visited the state fair. Police confiscated hundreds of photos of women in his possession, but he was eventually cleared. In 2010, New Mexico PI George Walker received several unsettling phone calls and emails from someone claiming to have information about the true identity of the West Mesa Bone Collector. So far, authorities have been unable to verify any of the information.
I know who killed her and I know who did it. And I know why. Okay, bye.
The women who paid the ultimate price at the hands of the West Mesa Bone Collector have gone largely unnoticed with little information to be found. Jamie Barella was only 15 when she disappeared along with Evelyn Salazar. They were both uncovered in the West Mesa site. Jamie was the only woman who did not have ties to the call girl world in New Mexico. Julie Nieto was last seen at her grandfather's house. She was waiting for her son to get off the school bus. She left for the bus stop and disappeared. Selania Edwards was the only woman not from the Albuquerque area. She was a runaway from Oklahoma that never made it home. Veronica Romero went missing on Valentine's Day 2004 after visiting her family. 2 years before the first sign of trouble was ever uncovered in West Mesa, a local reporter found that the city's only missing persons detective had compiled a list of 16 missing call girls who disappeared between 2001 and 2007. Why wasn't this the first sign of the West Mesa Bone Collector for authorities? 9 of the women on that list were eventually found to be at the mass West Mesa remains site. The other 7 are still unidentified. This only begs the question, is there another mass remains site?
What is still out on the West Mesa?
Theories abound on this unusual cold case. No more women have been found or attributed to the case, which may mean the culprit is dead or locked up, as is the way with serial killers. However, he could have just moved on to another state, never to be found. Another theory is a global illicit trafficking ring. Many of the women were on their way to the New Mexico State Fair when they disappeared. It is a well-known area for traffickers to take women. Police tracked several of the women to members of a smaller faction of the global ring. They specialize in events such as the fair, where call girls congregate to take advantage of the high volume of people. Federal authorities have offered a reward of up to $100,000 for information leading to the person or persons responsible for this atrocity. They ask that anyone who may have known or seen these women to contact the 118th Street Task Force at 1-877-765-8273 or 505-768-2450. Crime Stoppers can be called at 505-843-STOP. Do you have a theory about the West Mesa Bone Collector? Drop it below and get in on the conversation. Do you think the police should have been on to him sooner? Is he still out there? If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe for more killer content.